Very interesting how things work. So I forgot to add this. The whole video counts on this. And this was what should have been added at the very beginning. Okay, so these people have created a petition. Conservative parties have created a petition. And here's the petition. This is what the video is based upon. So, petition to the House of Commons, initiated by Miriam Burr of Vaughan, Ontario. Members of Parliament are elected to represent their constituents, often under a specific party affiliation and platform. So, now what they want to do, they want to redraw legislation because of floor crossing in the Parliament. And that's really what it is. So here's one petition, here's another petition, and here is another petition. So they just want to change the laws. They're petitioning their government. We got enough to deal with the Americans trying to take over the world. So this is why I'm adding this into the beginning of the video so you understand what motivated me doing the video to begin with. Okay, so enjoy the rest of the video. Ciao for now. Okay, our spotlight is on the Conservative Party and conservatives and their supporters. And why is that? Because they're a danger to the Canadian economy, and it's as simple as that. And you're going to say, well, how can that be? How can you be so slanted? Well, you can do like what I do, is learn from a real economics professor to what really works, not in theory, but really works within society and a government. You'll say, well, that takes a lot of time. Yeah, it takes a lot of time, but I was on my own at 14, so I could not take that university scholarship that was granted to me. But nonetheless, I'm here now. So here we have Northern Perspective. What's going on with these birds? Did I just say that? Yes, I did. Do I take that back? Kind of. Do I mean it? Yipperdoodle.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everybody, and we are live from the...
So here you have it, a couple. This is a couple, from my understanding, based in Hamilton, Ontario, wearing a cowboy hat. Now, there was a time when I was a kid and I wore a cowboy hat, but I was doing rodeos in a place called Pickering and Ajax, when we had quarter horse racing and we had a farm and a few horses. So this is obviously an Alberta and out west motif, and I've got an issue with the ideology out in Alberta. Preston Manning, to be more specific, as well as the UCP, and Pierre Poilievre. Why do I say that? Because they do not understand what needs to be done to help this economy and the people of this country. And it's as simple as that. So what are you going to do? I have no allegiance to any party. Couldn't care less if you're from the Sirius constellation or the Orion constellation belt. As long as you do well for the people, I'm for you. The thing is, I'm a solo entrepreneur, so I can only focus on so much at once, you know. I have to do my laundry, have to do everything. Can you imagine that? A man doing woman's work. Amazing. Nonetheless, here's the title of this. Carney lost it on a Liberal MP. Now in full damage control. Carney's in full damage control. Can you imagine that? Holy smokes. Now what are we going to do? Let's look at the next video. We've got to have comparatives. Here we go, Northern Perspective again. Mark Carney's bad temper is turning his own MPs against him. Are you serious? No, people, we can get into this. On television, they have reality TV shows. I don't watch much TV, so one of the things that I've heard about is the Kardashians and something about New Jersey Shore or something like that. If you want drama, you want virtual reality, just watch that stuff. You don't have to get into it. There's enough going on around your life Relationships are hard enough as it is. Why do we need to create more? And this is what you're doing. You're just creating more. It's just a waste of friggin' time. We can gossip about everybody if we want. Now, here you go. Here you go. Thomas Mulcair. I'm going to use what material I've got to show my point. So Thomas Mulcair will tell you what he thinks about this.
Let's now invite CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair in this conversation. Tom, great to see you this evening. Thank you for taking out the time.
Good to be with you, Akshay.
So you and I have had discussed Prime Minister Carney's style of working earlier as well, more like a corporate CEO style kind of culture. But when you read this reporting about him yelling at his MPs, not bothered about their concerns, what goes through your mind? What do you think is happening behind closed doors?
Well, as you know, Akshay, I was a party leader for several years, and it put a smile on my face because there are always going to try people who are going to try to spin something out of a caucus meeting. Of course, that's not there. I also know James Maloney, and I know him to be an honest, straight shooter. And I watched his reaction, and he said, this is just not true. There's very little you can do other than to say that this is fake. It's not true. There was one instance that was supposedly...
Are you kidding me? Is Thomas Mulcair saying this is fake news? Holy mega north. Holy mega north? Yeah, holy mega north.
An MP from Atlantic Canada who had a set to concerning Indigenous relations and so forth. And that MP is on the record as saying, hey, I've got a very good, respectful relationship with Prime Minister Carney, and we're doing fine. So within a caucus meeting, there are going to be some people who go to a microphone and just go off in all sorts of different directions. And if the party leader, or in this case, the prime minister, dares to reel them in a bit on the facts, well, there's some people whose nose will be at a joint. That they're going to blab that as some sort of punching down, is the expression they use by the prime minister, is telling with regard to the individuals in question. I remember...
So there you go. That's where we're at. That's where we're not going to. Enough of that. So now you know, gossiping. Everybody's gossiping. But here's the other deal. Because of this, we've got the floor crossing situation. Floor crossing situation? Yes. Floor crossing situation, and people have their nose out of joint with respect to that. So here we go. Breaking. Northern Perspective, you're front and center again. Carney's floor crossing recruiters named, senator implicated. Holy crap, holy.
That you have all of these floor crossers that repeatedly say, well, my constituents, that's who I consulted with. Meanwhile, there's a lot of really angry constituents in these ridings. And what Don Davies is saying is, listen, put your money where your mouth is. If you're so sure that this is the will of your constituents, go to a by-election. And this is what this legislation aims to do. Interesting that he
So what's this guy saying? You got your nose so out of joint because your ego has been triggered. So the fact of the matter, instead of just elect the guy, like this party stripe nonsense is nonsense. And so they're using this to try to change legislation to how we operate, to slow down the system. Who gives two flying frigs? It's more complicated than it needs to be already. And you want to make it more complicated because a guy crosses the floor and now you want to change the rules and you're going to make it so that this guy's got to maybe take a by-election or maybe has to sit in purgatory for 6 months and can't do anything? Come on now. Just let his constituents vote him, he or she right out. Like, why do you make it so complicated? It's not necessary. Let's see what else this gentleman has to say.
Says that the bill will not prevent people from sitting as an independent. I think that's an interesting option because he talks about, escaping oppression of conscience, or if there's a lot of corruption going on, and you.
Oh yeah, conjecture. The conscience card. Corruption. Conjecture. Because I got a thought in my little brain. Absolutely, I understand fully. Do you think Freud would understand? Mind you, if you subscribe to Freud, you may have a screw loose there because that era no longer applies to the present. You gotta have a little satire thrown in there somehow in a twisted sense. NDP, here we go. Don Davies.
How's everyone today? All ready? Today I...
But here's the other thing, before I get any further into it. You know, if Don Davies would have just supported the government, like Jagmeet Singh just supported the government, Jagmeet Singh he was not a bad guy. We'd still have Trudeau in government, but we lost Trudeau because Pierre Poilievre and the carbon tax. Meanwhile, the carbon tax got eliminated under Carney, and what happened? Within 3 months of elimination of the carbon tax, all that extra money that was going to make you rich got eaten up by inflation. Can you imagine that? The consumer carbon tax got torpedoed, and in 3 months, inflation ate up all that you benefited by it. And what had been actually a well-framed tax to do something will not get an opportunity to do what it needed to do, because any iteration thereof or reasonable facsimile thereof, it will be very hard to replace what you already had. But because of slogans and platitudes, you lost a leader. But it's funny how things go. Now you got Mark Carney. And Mr. Slogan and Mr. Platitude, Pierre Poilievre, is still up to his tricks. He said he's a changed man, but even with kettlebells by his side, we obviously see he has not changed. The guy's been, what's he been? Been in politics all his life. He never knows anything. He hasn't built anything. Even Doug Ford in Ontario got his dad's business. He never built anything. He doesn't know what it's like to build. Makes out like he knows a lot, but you know, anybody can slide a piece of cheese off a cracker, if you know what I mean. Mr. Davies have to say here.
I was pleased to introduce Bill C-278, legislation that would require members of Parliament who cross the floor to obtain the consent of their voters in a by-election. It's elementary that in a democracy, elections are the foundational opportunity for voters to express.
Okay, and yeah, they did vote. Guy crossed the floor. Why waste more time for a by-election? Unnecessary expense will not solve anything. And you got to remember, remember coherence, harmony, and balance. And then prior to coherence, harmony, and balance, there's a word called confluence, which is the natural order of all things that lead up to coherence, harmony, and balance. This is how creation works, believe it or not. But if I use a noun wrong, a progressive conservative would say, this guy is an idiot. That's just the way they work. Looking for every angle they can to talk themselves out of something that may be good for them. Just the natural order for them, because they live from the mind. So natural Don Davies, waste of time, not going to go further into that. Go to the next one. Now here's a floor crosser. Now this woman actually has a very interesting curriculum vitae. And you know what a curriculum vitae is? It's just a longer resume. Smart gal, conservative, and she crossed from the conservatives to the liberal government. And the way it happened was she never thought it would happen. But Evan Solomon and her in passing had a bit of a conversation, and that's how things came into play. Nobody's soliciting anybody out of the ordinary. It just in a natural conversation, it came about. So just so you know, the video's there. What's the guy's name? David Burrows. Look it up on YouTube. Now, here's the most important thing, and this is the whole point of my point of this. I want to make a point, and this is what you really need to understand. And we're just going to go to the bigger screen because you may need, just save you putting on your glasses. Now in the center here, we have a former journalist, Bruce Anderson off to the right, and Peter Mansbridge off to the left.
But the writer was saying there is no history in the Westminster system, whether it's in Canada or the UK or anywhere else in the world that follows that system, where a party that was elected as a minority through floor crossings or what have you becomes a majority. That if this happens here, and it appears like if it hasn't already happened, it's going to happen in the next couple of days, that this would be a first. Now, I don't know whether that makes it a bad thing or a good thing or what it means at all, but I thought it was interesting that if true, it's kind of a first. I can't point to any other one. I don't see either of you, although Keith's got that sort of smart-ass look on his face.
I said, look, like
knows
he's going to
something.
knock that down.
But as you well know, I can't not have that look.
Keith Bogue.
But you don't. But you also don't have no reason to disbelieve that. As a
To disbelieve
in this
that.
moment.
No, I have no reason to disbelieve that. But what the reason I'm like smirking, really? What it does, it triggers me. That's what it does. It triggers me, and it makes me go back to what I consider a canard, which is that the
A canard.
Canadian people
Oh,
didn't
my.
vote for a majority Liberal government, or they didn't they voted for a minority. No, they didn't. Right? I don't know any Canadians who go to the polls and say, "I want my party to win, but only this much." Right? I mean, occasionally they feel, okay, I can vote for.
Doesn't everyone in the electorate go to the polls and say, I want my party to win only by this much, this much, this much? And this is the point I want to make. Maybe you need to hear it once again.
I have no reason to disbelieve that. As a
To disbelieve
in this
that.
moment.
No, I have no reason to disbelieve that. But what the reason I'm like smirking, really? What it does, it triggers me. That's what it does. It triggers me, and it makes me go back to what I consider a canard, which is that the Canadian people didn't vote for a majority Liberal government, or they didn't they voted for a minority. No, they didn't. Right? I don't know any Canadians who go to the polls and say, "I want my party to win, but only this much." Right? I mean.
Yeah, we all go to the polls and say, I want my party to win only this much. It's like, you go to the polls. Why do you go to the polls? You go to the polls because you're voting for the person in your riding to represent your needs, whether it's municipally, provincially, or federally. And it's as simple as that. We got all sorts of people making all this stuff into all sorts of different things. Like, let's keep it simple. Life has enough drama already. Let's get what we need to be able to escape this pain and suffering, this affordability issue, and move to a position of benevolence, harmony, and abundance. And it starts with you by being kind to yourself and kind to your neighbor. Embrace the differences. Let's work together to make a better situation on a microcosmic and a macroeconomic way for everybody. So that's my point. Questions, comments, throw in chat. Otherwise, try to be civil. Conduct your affairs with a certain amount of decorum. Love and peace to y'all. Ciao for now.